Hello. So I figured I'd make a video, um, in light of everything that's going on in our society, um, with these recent riots and the death of George Floyd in Minnesota. Um, it's weird because, I guess I'm a millennial, and I go on Facebook, and my age group is very liberal, kind of like blindingly so, kind of the point where all logic goes out the window. Um, and like as you guys know, I'm not a Republican. I'm very moderate, actually. I'm slightly. Typically, in the past, I've been slightly left leaning, if anything. Um, it's just kind of like what's going on lately, though. It's like, first of all, I just want to say that that cop in Minnesota that put his knee on the guy's neck and basically strangled him to death with his knee, and he was saying, I can't breathe, and the guy died. I think that cop is absolutely a piece of shit and should go to prison. I do, because that was murder, as far as I'm concerned. And there were a lot of bystanders standing by telling him to stop, and it's not really something anyone should have to witness. And I can kind of see why afterwards the town went a little nuts after after he was basically basically just murdered on the street like that. I could see why the town went a little nuts and maybe some properties got destroyed or whatever. But the level it's been taking to, with the burning of buildings and the burning of like small businesses and really kind of like just attacking random innocent people on the street, it's really completely uncalled for. I mean, I don't think I could see why people are protesting, definitely, and especially because this isn't the first time this happened. There was the whole Black Lives Matter movement. Like 5 or 6 years ago, a guy was killed in New York City, with a chokehold. That guy was African American and started the whole Black Lives Matter movement. So this is definitely. I'm not saying it's not an issue. It definitely is an issue, and it keeps coming up, and it's happened, since then. And but I see people posting things on Facebook like, oh, if the death of a black man, if a person losing their business is more important to you than the death of a black man, get then you could just unfriend me, like making it kind of like personal, like about them, kind of. But the thing is, like, why? I'm sitting there like, why should it be an either or? Like a lot of this, I know Ollie Matthews talks about politics and how he gets triggered because a lot of this is stuff, it mirrors things that have happened in his life with his parents with narcissism, and that's why he gets triggered and does these political videos. And that he's like, oh, it's like the narcissist in your life, and how he's always kind of scapegoating the left, which I don't really agree with. Like, it's on both sides. But what's happening now is kind of reminding me of how, in the I would bring something up that my mother did to me, and people around me would sort of deflect back to my dad, even though whether it was relevant or not. Like, oh, well, your father was an alcoholic, you should have more appreciation for your mother, your father's this and your father's that. It's like, this has nothing to do with him. So I feel like it's almost like this guy's death and the Black Lives Matter movement is being used as a tool to gaslight people into taking abuse. Like, it's like telling somebody, oh, well, I attacked an innocent man on the street for no reason, but, a black guy was killed. You're not as important, so let me just go attack white people now. Or I burned down this guy's family business, who's totally innocent, had nothing to do with it, because, well, your business isn't as important as a guy who died, so let me just burn down the whole shopping center or whatever. And it really, like, it really doesn't make any sense, because a lot of it, has nothing to do with the guy who died. It's like this guy's death and the Black Lives Matter movement. And I'm not, again, I have to keep saying this because people are gonna say like, oh well, you're racist or you don't think Black Lives Matter is important. I do. It's just my problem is when it's used as a cover for things that it has nothing to do with, is what I'm saying. Like, you have all these people in cities around the country just going nuts, you know, attacking cops, cop cars, and setting fire to private property, and, you know, just attacking innocent people and stealing from stores, and it's like, and this is all because, you know, again, I'm not minimizing this guy's death, but they're trying to make it like it's because of this guy was murdered in Minnesota, but that's not really why. It's just being used as a cover for sociopathic behavior. And, you know, there was a car dealership that was vandalized, you know, thousands of dollars, probably like $1 million worth of merchandise, you know, BMWs destroyed, and people are writing in spray paint like "rich people suck" or something like that. It's like really? Like, what does that have to do with what happened? I guess, like, if you stretch it, more blacks are poorer than whites, or more whites have money, but that's not even true most of the time. So, like, how's that even related? Again, it's like, whoever decided to go in there and vandalize this car dealership, it's from their own issues with, I guess this person has something against people with more money than them, so they go in, they vandalize a car dealership, and you ask them about it, they're like, oh, Black Lives Matter, this guy was murdered in Minnesota. It's like, no, that has nothing to do with why you did what you did, and you know it. You know, it's not like, it's like a cover for narcissism, or the narcissistic tactic of deflecting, like how it's been done to me with, when I call my mother out, it's always deflected back to my dad. It's like implying that I'm denying that my dad was an alcoholic, which I never have. I know he's a severe alcoholic, actually, and I've never denied that. But it's almost like having a problem with innocent people being targeted and property being destroyed, and, you know, just stuff stolen, and I've seen people just being physically attacked at random. To see that and say, like, that's not okay, and that's really has nothing to do with the man who was killed, and then people say, like, oh, well, Black lives don't matter to you. It's like, no, I actually agree with the movement, and I think that cop is a piece of shit and should go to jail. I totally think that. But it's 90% of it is not about that guy, is not about George Floyd. And it's a bunch of sociopaths and psychopaths who probably have the same kind of pathology that cop does, actually, using this guy's death as a shield or a blanket for, you know, to cover why they're really doing what they're doing. And, you know, again, I do understand some of it. Like, something like this happens, you expect a few attacks on police and stuff when stuff like that happens. Or I could see if there was some vandalism in Minneapolis directly afterwards, because a lot of people witnessed it directly, and I'm sure that was very traumatizing, and people probably do go a little nuts. I can understand that. But it's just like, now it's like every city, and it's like all these kind of copycat incidents, and it's almost it almost reminds me of school shootings. How there's one in one city, and then a couple of days later there's one in another state, and then one in another state. Like, that's kind of what this is reminding me of. And people write on Facebook like, oh, well, for those of you that are sitting there saying, but the rioting is inappropriate, you're missing the point. It's like, are we really, or are we seeing the point? Is what I'm saying. Like, are we missing the point, or are we the only ones, like, seeing the point? And saying one thing is wrong is not saying the other thing is right. You know what I mean? It's not as starkly black and white as people make it. No pun intended, or I guess pun intended maybe. Um, but seeing how people are overreacting with these riots, it's like, oh well, some stolen merchandise means more to you than a black man's life. No, it doesn't. But I'm just talking big picture here. This isn't just a few stolen items. It's just absolutely insane. And Eric, George Floyd, the guy who died, his brother was even on the news saying, my brother was just murdered. You don't see me out there destroying buildings and burning down buildings and attacking people. You don't see me destroying my town. What are you all doing? And this is the guy's brother that said this. So, I think times like with things like this, like sometimes logic goes out the window and politics takes center stage, or people get overheated in their emotions. They take it as a personal attack, like one way or the other. Like this, whoever vandalized this car dealership somehow in his head or their heads or whatever linked what happened to I guess white people with money, so let's go vandalize a car dealership, even though it's kind of like 6 degrees of separation. Doesn't make a lot of sense. And then people are saying like, oh, rioting, and it's a Martin Luther King quote, rioting is, I'm paraphrasing, but it's a response of the unheard, or rioting is a reflection of the unheard. And I do understand that there is prejudice towards blacks in our country. There still is, and it's been an ongoing issue. I understand that, but a lot of this is like people of all different races. A lot of them are actually suburban whites. Antifa, groups like that are just like, it's almost like it's being used as an excuse just to wreak havoc. And if it wasn't this guy's death fueling it, it would have been something else or some other incident. You know what I mean? Like it's really, by me calling out some of these rioters, I'm not dismissing this guy's death. I'm just saying like it's not really about that. You know what I mean? Like it's just, anyway, like, and then people just make it so black and white. I guess it's literally black and white, but it's like you can't, it's just like dealing with a narcissist. It's like you can't call out one thing without it being deflected to something else, and then you look like the bad guy. And I do see, like Ollie says, I don't always agree with him with his politics, but I think this is an example of societal narcissism. And it doesn't really matter like where. I don't always agree with his politics, but in this case, I do see the hypocrisy, and it's like dealing with the narcissist in your day-to-day life. And it's just, and I do hope this cop goes to prison. I think he will. And I'm not condoning what he did or saying Black lives don't matter or any of that. But, and I think the video Ollie did was taken down, so I don't know what's going to happen to this one, but I guess we'll see in a day or two, and I'll see you on the next video.